as price did have a bit of a pullback on the DXY. So we were looking pretty bearish. You can see where that big wick to the downside. But then, of course, we did kind of change that direction as the day continued. And, well, on the day anyway, we actually closed still bearish, but we did pull back pretty aggressively. And you'll see signs of that on Euro, Pound, and other markets as well, which we'll get to soon. But I said for the DXY, the market's still a bit overextended. I am looking for a bigger pullback. The plan is still very much clear. We've had a very, massive breakout of this 2-year range. So as long as this stays a breakout and remains a breakout, we don't come crashing back down. I am looking for a push all the way back to the high here at 113, 114. So that's still very much the plan with the DXY, which is why I'm very bullish. Of course, the only way for me to change that bias is if we were to come back underneath that range. So this turns out to be a massive fake out. And then, of course, after that, I'll be very bearish on USD, expecting a completion of the range back to the lows here. So that's the only way I do become bearish longer term. At the moment, we haven't got that. So I'm still pretty bullish, expecting more upside. But what I will say is the market's still a little bit stretched and it is becoming a little bit corrective now. We are starting to lose some momentum. We're starting to see more frequent pullbacks, deeper pullbacks. I'm not seeing much strength in the upwards moves anymore. We had a massive candle here in the daily chart, had a fairly decent one there, but the rest are still pretty sluggish, not seeing much momentum. So we are becoming a bit corrective, which is why I said potentially we could see a deeper pullback now for the DXY, and maybe CPI yesterday could have been the catalyst for that. And in some ways it was. We did see a bit of a move to the downside, but I was looking for a much deeper one. I was talking about this area back here, around 107.8, 108 if you want to call it that. Nice psychological level, but more importantly, solid level resistance was our prior high. Of course, this is the high which sent us back down to give us a new high low, which of course has seen new highs since then. So I've been looking for a pullback for the dollar, pullbacks for dollar CAD, Euro USD, Pound USD, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, you name it. Been looking for pullbacks on those USD pairs. And I've been wanting to see a bit more weakness for the USD before I do buy back into it. Not that we can't potentially push the upside from here. We could, but I've been looking for a deeper correction because I want to try and find a nice swing trade, which I can hold for potentially multiple days, potentially multiple weeks if it does really play out. And I want to see those bigger corrections, so it gives me more confidence to hold on further. If we have shorter corrections, sure, you can still see continuations. But as soon as we come back to highs, you're probably looking to close the trade there. Of course, you don't know. Maybe it does continue forever. But, shallow pullbacks typically give you more shallow moves. Deeper pullbacks, if they do play out, give you much deeper and more fulfilling moves. And that's kind of what I'm after here with the DXY. So dollar at the moment has seen some nice retracement. It is throwing some wicks to the downside. I believe that it just about, I missed that area there. So yeah, I'm still looking for a little bit more downside. Yes, it looks like it's finding support, but I'm looking for a bit more weakness of the dollar before I do start buying. This is my area of confluence. Lines up pretty well with the 0.5, I believe, of the fib. Yes, it does. Back into that 108 area. So that's really where I want to find my longs and see if I can hold onto some, well, not longs on the DXY, but shorts on pound and longs on dollar CAD. But find my opportunities to take advantage of that USD buy. So that's really what I'm looking for the DXY. Will we see a bit more downside before we push up? Potentially. Looking on the hourly chart, it is still looking pretty corrective, but this is a very strong impulse down, followed by a very strong impulse up. So that's kind of a reversal pattern. And if we potentially break this to the upside with some momentum as well, then we probably won't see that bigger correction. We might push. So on the lower time frames, probably keep an eye on that. If we do break to the upside aggressively, we probably will just keep pushing up. If we go take a look at EURUSD, which did something similar, it was a nice reaction on an area of support, which we were discussing yesterday. This wasn't big enough pullback, and the candlestick as well was too big of a rejection for me to take a trade. It was probably like a 1.2 RR back into the low, which is great. But I wouldn't be looking to try and take it past that low, to be honest, because I know the market's still bearish. But again, we're still very, very corrective, and we haven't seen much of a pullback. So even though for Euro, I do have a very long-term bias with this one, as long as we stay below the low of the range, which so far we're doing, I do think there's a good chance Euro can make it back to the lows there. But because we haven't seen much of a pullback, it's been very corrective, it's been very shallow pullbacks. I can't necessarily be looking for anything crazy. and the push that low is kind of the best I've got, which again, if I do take an entry on that big bearish engulfing candle, which was a great entry signal. However, in terms of stop loss, again, looking at about a 1.2, 1.3 into that low, which isn't the best RR in the world. So yeah, nothing really for me there, but a nice reaction yesterday. If you're looking at the lower time frames, probably can get some entries there, maybe the 30, 15 minute off that area. It's been a nice reaction. At the moment, the market's kind of just moving sideways. For Euro, I also talked about a deeper pullback, which is something I'm a bit more interested in, which is coming back to retest this support area here and having that deeper pullback. If I draw the fib from the high to the low, you can see it lines up pretty well with the 0.618. So this is something that would interest me a little bit more because number one, it's a deeper correction. And number two, the risk reward back into that low will be far greater. And if things look good, if the momentum looks good, I can potentially hold onto that trade a lot longer as well, past that low, and try and attack some lower prices as well. So I'm looking for a deeper correction there for Euro in terms of the entries. Will we get that potentially? Will price continue from here? Potentially. This is where my confidence lies as a trader. It's my job just to wait for my opportunities to set up, and when they do, make sure I'm there to take them. So I'll keep an eye on that for Euro. I'm still looking for a deeper correction on Pound USD as well. Pretty much the same exact bias, same analysis with Euro as well. My preferred level to take a trade for Pound is still 1.25, although I wouldn't mind the retest of this low here as well at 1.235. But again, need to see a pullback for Pound. You can see if I draw the fib from the high over there to the low, it lines up pretty well. Well, it's gone past it now, but it did line up pretty well with the 50 when I was trading back over there. But since we had the bigger move at the start of the week, it's kind of in between the 0.5 and 0.618. But still a healthy area of confidence. We'll probably tag both of them if you do get that bigger pullback. So still looking at something like this for Pound as well, similar to Euro, which again should give some nice trades back into the low if the trend does continue. And you're looking at pretty healthy risk reward back into that low. And if I go to the daily chart, I do still expect more downside for Pound USD in general. We have broken through this ascending channel here, this counter trend line, and we did it with some nice momentum as well. So I do expect to see more downside. And next level, I expect price to go tick off is that low there, just below 1.21, 1.20665. So that's what I'm expecting Pound USD to get to. But first, of course, need to see some healthy pullbacks. Do you find some entries? I would say keep an eye on those two areas, 1.25 and 1.235. Retesting this prior low or that prior low, either one could send the market back to the downside and continue that trend. So keep an eye on both of them. And I would suggest if you're looking at more intraday timeframes, you might find some nice opportunities on the retest of that low there for Pound. But yeah, still wanting to see a much bigger correction, really big drop past couple of days. Market's still quite stretched. So I do need to see price kind of contract a little bit and have a bit of a breather. Dollar CAD still very choppy conditions. Market seems to be moving sideways here quite a lot, so not really interested in dollar CAD in this area. I do expect to see some downside again purely as retracement, but we might not see that. Maybe price just continues to consolidate for the next few days and eventually breaks up. That could be the case. If that is the case, I won't be interested. I'm still expecting a lot more upside for dollar CAD in the foreseeable future. This is the resistance I'm looking for price to get to, more or less around 1.465. Massive rejection over there, again over there as well. And we're not too far away from that same level. Now that we've broken through this resistance, and of course we've done that a while ago, that is really the next big level. So dollar CAD for me, more upside expected. You can see it's been such an impulsive breakout. So we are a little bit stretched, again, due a bit of a pullback. Hence why I'm waiting for price to have that correction back into this area here. And then hopefully I can find some longs to find that next pullback and ride that back to highs. And then if I'm lucky, back to the next weekly level up there. But as of now, dollar CAD is just moving sideways, really. So difficult to find quality trades here unless you're looking to play the range. Couple of fake outs of that as well. Not ideal, but that's how the market is moving. So yeah, dollar CAD still very bullish. This is still my number one opportunity for a trade, coming back to retest the high. But as I said, we may just consolidate, break out. In that case, keep an eye out for the retest of this high because that might be the only trade opportunity we get in terms of a break and retest. So I'll keep an eye on that as well, should that happen. In terms of Aussie dollar, again, still looking for a pullback for this one. Still very, very tired underneath these lows. If I scoot to the weekly chart, you can see we've taken out some major weekly lows here. So again, after taking out such a massive low like that, I cannot be looking to sell the market anymore. I need to expect at least a breather, a correction, even if we are going to continue down, which I expect us to do. I'm actually longer term expecting us to come back to the COVID lows down here. So I'm expecting a lot more downside for Aussie dollar in the long run. But first, I do need to see a correction, such a big move as well. So I do think Aussie dollar is due some upside, similar situation to dollar CAD. I think it's due some downside. So looking at something like this and a correction, if I go back to the daily chart, the area I'm looking for price to get to is to retest this level of support. Really, really strong level of support in the daily chart. You can see two massive reactions from that area. Since then, we've broken through, but if we can get a retest, there's a good chance it can act as resistance and potentially send price back down again. So that's really where I want to see Aussie dollar get to in the next few days. And then I'll see how price reacts, and hopefully there'll be some opportunities to take price back down again and targets back into the low, so on and so forth. There's a current trend right now for USD strength, and I'm just looking to take my pieces of that pie, really. And as long as price stays bearish and US and DXY doesn't do anything crazy, I will maintain that bias. Of course, if things change, I'll change with it. But for now, I'm only expecting more downside. But yeah, do you see a pullback there for Aussie dollar? New Zealand dollar's in a similar boat as well. However, we haven't taken out that weekly low, which is just below us. I wonder if price is going to do that first before we do get a bigger pullback. You can see major low there, similar to Aussie dollar, and we're kind of just trading right above it. So again, we've taken out some major lows previously, though. These lows here taken out, those lows there taken out. So I do want to see a pullback there for New Zealand dollar as well. The market's been incredibly bearish, so not really interested about shorting in here. Not to say that we can't sell off. We can still do that. The market is still forming lower highs. This could be completely missed it there. This could be the next one. But of course, on the time frames I'm trading, I'm looking for those bigger corrections, for those bigger swings as well. So that's really what I'm looking for on New Zealand dollar. And it's pretty much a similar opportunity to Aussie dollar, looking for the retest of that daily low around 0.58. Hopefully some entries there and another push to the downside. If we go take a look at gold, I'm pretty sure this one was bullish. Yeah, still looking very bullish this morning. Looks like we're coming back into that high there of the range. So this is the high and the low I'm looking at. Equal highs, equal lows. Price kind of faked the low of the range there. Now we've had a pretty impressive move to the upside. So now that we approach that resistance at 27.20, we're going to see how price reacts. Do we get a breakout? Okay, if we do get a breakout, then the next target will be the all-time high, back to 27.90. And that will be a nice opportunity. Wait for the breakout, pullbacks, retest, off you go to the highs. Hopefully there's a lot of momentum in the market at that moment in time. So you can look for some shorter pullbacks and look to ride that momentum. Equally, if the market does respect the level of resistance, we could come straight back down, just like we did on these two prior attempts. 1, 2, market was pretty impulsive on this way down. We might see some selling pressure coming to the market and a push back down. In fairness, the market is consolidating. So there's a pretty good chance we do respect that high. But because I know what gold's doing on the higher time frames, if I go to the weekly chart very quickly, look how clear cut this bullish trend is. There's a lot of momentum on the higher time frames to the upside. And because of that, I do expect us to eventually break the high and get back to the all-time high and so on and so forth. So I'm waiting for us to break that resistance. And when we do that, if we do that, then I'll be looking to buy gold again. I was originally looking for price to push back into the low. Never happened. So now this is going to be the focus. And it does look like silver is following in the same path as gold. Lovely break to the upside, taking out the highs. This is exactly what I've been calling for on silver. We had a lovely double bottom 2-3 weeks ago. Lovely support there. 1, 2, went and broke the highs not long afterwards. And now we create a new high with a new high low. And we did it with some nice momentum as well. So I'll be looking for the next pullback for silver. I'm looking for a bit more upside before I do start to look for the retest of this high for entries. At the moment, we've only just about pinched that high there, so it's a little bit too soon for me looking for a break and retest. But if we can push on, keep that momentum going, that will be a lovely area for a retest. And again, looking for another high low to form. Trade at least back to the highs there on the left, which is this area here. But again, well and truly, the bias is to take silver back to the highs there, as all I'm looking at is right now impulse, impulse, correction, another impulse to the upside, another correction, another impulse to the upside. Just continue with that pattern, continue with that trend.